This segment sponsored by Longe Optical. Okay, Josh, what is happening right here?
So this is kind of the first station. So that puck that we just talked about, it's got to get mounted on what's called a chuck, right? It's got to be mounted on something to safely get through the rest of the process and go through all of our machines. So what Ian's doing right now is he's basically just putting the truck into the blocker here. He's taking that puck. It's already been kind of, there's a protective wrap on the back of it. And then he's adding a liquid alloy into that little chamber there. And what that alloy is going to do is it's going to take the chuck and it's going to take the puck and it's going to basically stick those two things together without damaging or melting the lens.
Okay.
It's a very, very important part of the process because if that bond is not good, it's not going to make it through the machines. It's going to get knocked off. It can't withstand, some of the pressure that the puck is going to go through throughout this tailoring process. So just a really unique thing, that gets that liquid metal basically turns solid here after a few minutes. Once it cools, it's able to go into the machine, but just a very important part of the whole process.
So is it adding the protective layer on it, or is it like...
It's bonding it.
It's bonding it.
It's bonding it to the chuck. So here we have that puck we started with, okay?
Wow.
It's got this protective film. Now you have your alloy that he just put in there, which bonds it to this chuck here. And this is the piece that's really going to go into the machine and make
and to keep it stabilized while it does its cutting and its work. Okay, very cool. Let's keep going. All right, so after it is pucked,
after it's pucked, it is blocked. It's placed on the puck. Now it's ready to go through the process of getting that prescription into it. So we talked about how that prescription and those measurements go to the supercomputer. It comes back. Now we have all your measurements, specific specifications. You take that puck and it gets placed into what's called the generator.
Okay.
So this generator is essentially like a diamond cutting CNC machine, but it is basically taking all of those measurements and grinding your prescription or cutting, I should say, your prescription into the lens. So it goes in looking like this, right?
Right.
What we just saw. And then it ends up coming out looking like this.
Wow.
So if you compare the two, we've got quite a big difference in just the amount of material that's left on that lens.
Yes.
It is opaque in nature, obviously, because it just got cut down.
Right.
But there's a significant difference at this point. And technically the prescription's in there now.
Yeah.
Now we just need to make it look nice.
All right, let's do it. All right.
So we've ground the lens down, but as you noticed, it looked kind of matte finish, right? Because it's obviously taken that shiny coating off and ground that prescription in. So it needs to be polished. So what Ian's working on right now is he's applying the correct polishing pad based on that individual's prescription and that individual's lens, because it does vary. If you notice, there's like 10 different pads here.
Right.
So again, it's not a one size fits all. That prescription or the shape of that lens might require a different type of abrasion. So he's putting the pucks in there. Again, they're kind of up underneath these little umbrellas here.
Right.
And then it's going to go in there. It's going to spin at a high rate, but then there's polish flying everywhere. So if you notice, this is probably the messiest station here.
Yeah.
But it's because that polish needs to be, basically the jets are just spraying polish everywhere, so it doesn't generate heat. The polish is cooled at a really cold temperature, again, to keep heat away. But the shine of the lens is being reapplied to that puck itself. So this is why you get the shiny gleam on the lens it starts right here.
A polisher. I was curious. I was like, what is happening over here? But it's being polished.
Yep.
All right, next step.
Yep.
All right, next machine.
Next thing is very important, right? So we took that lens and we did all kinds of things to it over there on that side, but it's porous, right?
Right.
So there's openings on the outside of that lens. So what Larry is working on here, he's using what's called a backside coater, and this is taking that lens and putting a very hard coating on that side of it that was just ground into. And it's a protective layer, but it also allows for the next phase of this process, which is where the anti-reflective coatings are put on, to actually happen. It needs something to bond to because that lens is not strong enough before it gets to here.
Okay,
so kind of a unique little process, but pivotal. to the whole experience. If this process isn't done well, your lenses will begin to crack, they'll scratch, the coatings will come off a lot sooner than they should. So this is pivotal to the whole process. If this isn't done well, then the end product is not going to be as good.
Right, yeah, because like you said, that material is so thin and it could just break and crack.
And it's essentially soft. I mean, it's just plastic, really.
Yeah.
Different indexes of plastic, but it needs something hard to be able to continue on.
All right, let's keep going. Okay, so we're in a new lab. This place is so big.
Yeah, it's a different room now.
Yes.
So this room is our anti-reflective lab. And so the anti-reflective coatings that make those lenses look really nice when you're outside or on camera, you don't get all that reflection. This is where it happens in this room here. So several different phases of this process. Obviously we won't go into all the nerdy details, but the thing to take away and remember here is that when the lenses come in here, they're still yet kind of unprotected. They're fragile to a certain degree, and so what Brandon and Nick and the rest of the team help out in here with is they take these lenses and they clean them. I mean, they go through several different phases of not only a basic hand and cleaning inspection, making sure there's no scratches, no imperfections in the lenses, to an ultrasonic cleaner over here, which uses 3 different types of water and some heat to be able to, again, remove any impurities out of that lens. And then they got to be dried after they come out of there, right? And so they go into our dryers over here where they sit in there for about 90 minutes and removing all moisture from that lens. So at this point, that lens is almost there. It's about 80% of the way there, but there's one other big thing that it needs to do, and it needs to go into a vacuum chamber where all the coatings are applied. And so it's a unique thing that I won't take all the thunder for here. I think this is Brandon's area that he's going to talk about because he knows so much more about it than I do. But this is where the magic happens right over here.
Magic happens. Well, let's bring Brandon in, who is the AR tech, right, in this lab.
That's correct. Hello.
Okay, so let's talk about your job. Tell me about this process of adding the polish and how careful you have to be.
Definitely. So like Josh mentioned, the lenses have to be extremely clean before they go into the AR machine, because what's going to happen in there is it's going to get different deposition levels of compounds, chemicals that are burned essentially with an electron beam that gets as hot as 2,000 degrees Celsius or about 3,600 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
And it's going to deposit these different chemicals in nanometer levels. So it's going to sandwich them onto the lenses once they go in. So once they go into the machine, and this batch just came out, so I can actually go ahead and pull this out.
Okay, yeah.
This gives you an insight into the inner workings of the AR machine. And once these lenses come out, they have essentially gotten many different compounds. A few of them are zirconium oxide, silicon oxide, or I should say, I'm sorry, they are dioxides, magnesium fluoride, and then a couple other compounds, which one is called an ITO, which is, it prevents static electricity and also helps remove and let any debris or dirt fall off of the lenses. As well as, one of the last layers that goes on is a hydrophobic layer, which is going to help water prevent from sticking onto the lenses.
Okay.
So once I bring them out and they came out of the AR machine, I'm just going to simply, one by one, carefully remove these lenses and put them into a tray that shows which tray out in the lab that they correspond to, so that we can return them correctly to the correct frame and the correct patient. So
all right. Wow.
I can go ahead and do
Very
a couple
surgical.
for you.
Okay, so we just saw Brandon do this process, and what's the final step, Josh?
So we're pretty much done at this point. The lenses have come out, they look fantastic. The next phase is just the team has to be able to cut that down. Whatever frame you picked, it's now got to get cut down and put into that lens, or put into that frame. It's a very, very, again, technical process, but again, we already have those measurements, so the machine cuts it down to a very precise fit so it doesn't pop out. And then after that, it's the home stretch. So it's final inspection. There's a team that looks at every single order that comes through. They have an inspection card in front of them. They're just making sure that everything you ordered is done on your order. Visual inspection, optical inspection, just to make sure there's no scratches, blemishes on the lenses, and that everything is as ordered. They're cleaned up and delivered to the stores.
All right, look at that. Well, that was so cool to see the process behind the scenes and see what really happened. So thank you for the tour.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure having you. This is wonderful.
Yes. And if you would like more information about Longe Optical, then we will have their website listed below. Check them out, order your glasses or contacts, and I'll see you after the break. This segment sponsored by Longe Optical.